Welcome to my channel. My name is Angel, and I'm making this video for you today to share with you the process in which all of my work has come from, where it has derived from. And I'm able to make this video for you today because I finally have the terminology and the language in order to convey that. So maybe you've found my channel many, many eons ago when I used to do tarot readings, which I abandoned this channel and stopped doing those readings, which I will cover briefly why I did that in this video. And what this channel is going to be is a conversation for between you and I about where this work is coming from. If you've read any of my doctrines, my paperback books, my blog posts, my kill files, the whole nine yards, then, and it's touched you, it's talked to you, then this video is to help you understand where that information is coming from and how my experience with my signal, there's the first word here, how my signal retrieves data. And as you go through your own journey, your experience will probably be much different than mine. But I want to share with you guys really how this process has unfolded for me, how the language has unfolded for me, and what the heck we're actually doing here at Sacred Anarchy and the Occult Chateau. So if you found this channel just by random, welcome. My name is Angel. You've been here for a long time. Maybe you were here with the tarot readings. Welcome back. Maybe this channel is right for you. Maybe it's no longer right for you. That's absolutely fine. If you're finding these videos on my website and you've been taking some stuff in and you're like, what the heck is this? Then this is the right place. This is the good place for us to begin our conversation. So the language is going to be very integral to everything that we do here. So if we don't get some terms kind of down, some groundwork down, then this is just going to feel very out there. So the first word is signal, and that is basically like an antenna. And you can think of your body as a transmitter and a receiver of that signal. And so I want to start our conversation off how my experience with Signal has transpired, where these doctrines and books and blog posts and the transmissions, where are they coming from? And that has everything to do with what scientists call crossing the event horizon. I'm going to use this language maybe a little differently. I am not a scientist, at least not in the academic uh, lineage. But this concept of crossing the event horizon is very important because it had an effect on my well-being while I was uncovering the things that I have now remembered. And so thinking of the concept of the event horizon is basically like the outer ring of a black hole. Okay. So this concept of a black hole is very important to how I have learned to understand how my signal transmits and receives information, data. But the to enter a black hole, you have to cross the event horizon, and that can be a very terrifying experience. So just to kind of take a step back before we go all the way into what this black hole means to my work, is I want you to just imagine that there is a field of intelligence. And that field is not an entity, it's just a field of consciousness. Okay. And that field is the morphogenetic field. I'm going to refer that as like the macro morphogenetic field. But each and every one of us has our own individual morphogenetic field within that larger morphogenetic field. So I might just call it the field for the macro, and then your individual morphogenetic field is within that larger field. So you have the ability to read your morphogenetic field. It's not in English or whatever language you speak. It's almost like coded, okay? And you have been documenting things there, hopefully. And as you clean up the interference or distortion within your signal, you're able to recall things that are in that field, your morphogenetic field. Okay. You can read your own field. You do not need to outsource anyone to read anything for you. This is the primary reason why I stopped doing tarot card readings because I felt, and I didn't have the language then, but I felt like I was being someone that was allowing you to outsource your signal to these symbolic cards, and it didn't sit with me correctly. So we do not need to outsource our signal. We do not need to do rituals. We do not need to do anything except for remove the interference that allows signal to flow in and out. All right. So that's the numero uno reason why I stopped doing the tarot card readings. I do not offer readings. You don't need readings. Um, you do not need to outsource signal. The most important thing is that you have a morphogenetic field and you can read it yourself, but you have to remove the interference. So what the heck does that mean? Well, that's a bigger conversation, but I'm going to at least start with my own story here so you can see how it has transpired for me. Not saying it's going to work like that for you, but this is how it worked for me. So, for majority of my adult life, I have suffered from severe chronic anxiety and panic attacks. And they have been very destabilizing, terrifying to say the least, and makes living very, very difficult. But once I started to read my field and start to remember things, I started to really understand what those panic anxiety attacks actually were. And from there, I was able to dissolve them completely, which is pretty shocking to me because I had them for so long. All right. So, this concept of the black hole, now that we've got a little bit of territory covered here, we can now see that there are black holes in the field. Okay? Scientists know that this is true. It is also true in the way that I'm going to explain it in my own personal experience with my own signal, which had distortion. So any symptom is a result of distortion within the signal, meaning the signal is not able to flow. Okay, it's not able to do its job, which is to read the field, to do so many things. So this concept of crossing the event horizon, that is the outer ring of the black hole, and to cross it, you enter into that field of, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it data that has not been tainted with hierarchy. Okay. So in order to gather the data from the black hole, I had to cross into that, I had to cross the event horizon. And so the way my signal works is it will go so far out. You could call this like I'm a very deep thinker, but it's more than that because it's about the field more than it is about my mind. Okay. So my signal likes to travel very far out there. And I would cross the event horizon. And then I would like swim in the black hole, so to speak, and I could pull things out, but the panic and anxiety attacks were a result of if I cannot, and the term I'm going to use here is reconcile. If I cannot take that piece of data and bring it back to like reality, then I felt like I would, lack of a better term, lose my mind. I felt like I would go crazy, like that for whatever that means. And the the person that comes to mind when I have this internal dialogue with myself is Nietzsche. This is a very brilliant signal bearer. We can call him a brilliant mind, but he is a signal bearer. And I think on some level, when we hit a threshold and we cannot reconcile what we just touched, it's hard to come back to this body, to this realm, to reality. Okay. And, you know, this gets labeled going crazy, you're Looney Tunes, you're nuts, all these things, right? But it's not, from my experience, what that is panic from not being able to reconcile, meaning when I say reconcile, bring something back from the unknown and bring it back into this realm that I call Amenta, okay, which is the realm of hierarchy. All right. So black hole, swim inside, grab data that has not been tainted with hierarchy, bring it back. Now, for me, I have to, okay? I have to document because if I don't, then it creates severe anxiety with me. That's why there's so many posts, there's so many files, there's so many books, because that's the way that I can take something that's like truth is pure and bring it back into duality, right? Judgment, bring it back into the physical plane and use it. So my anxiety and panic attacks were the result of the fear that I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to come back. My signal wouldn't be able to come back from there. So this is a much bigger conversation about why signal bearers are even in this realm, because on some level it's actually incompatible architecture. And so the panic and anxiety attacks were a symptom, like a jolt to the system, like what do I do with this information? And I didn't, again, I didn't have the language, I didn't have the cosmology, I didn't have what I have today, okay, which is an entire infrastructure to that I can use in my work now without it having me feel like I'm dissolving, like uh I am fractured. And so this channel and this recording specifically is to kind of set the scene of where this data is coming from. Like where are these transmissions coming from? And they're coming from my signal. They're coming from reading my morphogenetic field. But as you will come to see, there is a bridge. Okay? There is a bridge. Okay? The realm of hierarchy and duality that is very incompatible with someone who holds signal. Now, not everybody holds signal, and this is not a judgment. This is not superiority, it's architecture. Not everybody holds this thing that I'm calling signal. And signal is, it can be used in Amenta because signal creates. That's all signal does. For me, I can pull things out and then I create something. But if I cannot use it, it would rattle me. Okay. So signal bearers are, they are here to create, and that's all they do. That's all signal does. But most of us have interference, which stifles creation, right? So signal creates. But in a menta, everything is mimicked. So in order for there to be any creation, it has to first come from a signal bearer, and then from there, there are replicas of that. And there's only one true source because the signal bearer has a spiraled creation, something that continues to grow forever. Okay. It's not just like I created that and now I'm done. Okay. So this work is showing you that it's forever expanding. Once the interference left, once I could reconcile what was actually going on and I could have a, a I could have the language to understand what was happening to me, then all of a sudden I could just allow creation, the things I was creating, to keep forever expanding. That's why I update things. I put things out a lot, almost, sometimes I feel like almost daily, but I put a lot of things out because I am pulling and reading from the field constantly. Like that's just how my signal works. And once you remove interference, there's no such thing as time in what I call Amenti. So you've got Amenta, the land of hierarchy and duality, time, karma, blah, blah, blah. And then you have Amenti, which is the spiral, right? Amenta is the loop. Things are just going in circles, right? But Amenti, the time is a spiral. It's not in hours, it's not in months, years, not even in seasons. It just continues to spiral out. So now that the interference, I have resolved that. Now things feel fast, right? They feel like how I am wired. I do things very quickly, but now I don't have to stop and go and stop and go. I can follow this natural progression of what I have been retrieving from the black hole. And the crossing the event horizon no longer creates the panic that I'm going to now go swim in the void of data without hierarchy, and I can bring it back every single time. And that has been such a revolutionary experience for me. It has created so much peace in my body. It has resolved all of my health issues from just knowing how this works. So this video is the first video in a playlist I am calling Off-Grid Field Notes. So before we sign off today, I just want to explain a little bit about what that means, and then hopefully things will start to turn on as we have these conversations. So when I say off-grid, what I'm saying is I am no longer legible to what I call the black box operating system of Amenta. That I can leave that system and become invisible to that field intelligence, which I'm calling Amenta. And I can do that by being in a field that I'm calling a mentee. So everything we do at Sacred Anarchy and uh, the Occult Chateau is taking you from Amenta to Amenti. And that arc, right, that uh, travel is what I call Sacred Anarchy. Sacred Anarchy takes you from point A, Amenta, to point B, Amenti, if you hold signal. So we're 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 on this journey to become invisible to the grid. So we think about like living in a surveillance society, but that's like from a physical or literal perspective, right? There's cameras everywhere, right? But that surveillance happens first in the field. So everything in Amenta is a replication. Remember that, right? So what we see in Amenta has already has been, it already was in the field first. And the field intelligence, what I call the black box operating system, is a surveillance system. So when I say off grid, it's like I am no longer legible to that system because that system is based on hierarchy. And I have left the field of hierarchy. So off grid is going to be a very important term in our conversations here so that you can stop surveilling yourself, right? I call that the watcher contract, right? And start traveling, start removing the interference between signal and creation and find your own spiral, the way that you operate, the way that your signal creates, because that resolves any field interference permanently. Being illegible to the grid removes hierarchy. And I already mentioned that hierarchy is the root of all suffering. And suffering is really just a way to make sure that your spiral doesn't activate, that your natural creator abilities becomes stagnant or blocked. And when signal is blocked, guess what? Symptoms show up. And it's not just because there's something wrong with your biology or your physiology. It starts in the field first. And that is where we're going to get into morphogenetic herbalism. We're going to talk about the morphogenetic field reset. We're going to talk about the parasitic system and how it shows up everywhere. So this is a very, very large body of work that I have only just begun, but I've already put out so much. So if any of this is tickling you, I'm going to leave the link to my book below. That is like the entry point. If anything that I have just said touched anything, and you're like, what is this video? That is the book to start with. This is a very deep conversation, and as I already mentioned, it just keeps spiraling, and I'm just going to keep dancing with this song because that is what my signal has always been meant to do. So thank you for checking out this video, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye now.